Welcome to IDG Chit Chat Live for the week of May 17th, 2016. Today we're going to talk about Genealogy Roadshow. It's back. Ooh, I'm doing something crazy with my screen. Hello, everyone. You can see it's Jen trying to run the show and having fun with technical difficulties. I'm Jennifer Alford. I'm publisher with the In-Depth Genealogist. And joining me today are three wonderful guests who have put up with our technical difficulties. And I'm so glad they're here. We have Sherry Passy, we have Melissa Barker, and we have Val, and I always mangle your last name. How do you say it?
Eichler-Lair.
Eichler-Lair. Okay. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today. Yesterday, we had tried to do a chit chat, and technology was not our friend that day. Between headphones not working and echoes and so forth, I'm just so grateful that we can all hear each other.
Oh, it's a good thing nobody could hear our chit chat.
Oh, yeah. Our chit chat was not too pleasant at that time. I'm going, this darn computer! But we're here. We're ready to talk about the premiere episode of Genealogy Roadshow. And I must say that you can definitely tell that the hosts are getting more comfortable with the
Yes.
show and everything, because I thought they really did a good job of kind of dramatizing the stories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
I agree. I thought they were much more natural and not so much. I mean, you know, they've got a script. They have to have a script to make sure
yeah.
they hit all the points. But it just felt more natural. They were more into the stories.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I don't have the list of what stories everyone talked about.
Oh, Valerie's got her
we have
notes.
we have our superstar note taker.
Like Shannon says, the overachiever.
I've got mine too, but mine are not as complete.
Mine are on Twitter because I was tweeting while I watched.
Yeah.
So I had all my little comments of "oh my" and "wow," and looking back, I'm like, what was I so excited about? I'm not sure. But I was excited that when they revealed the location where they were doing the roadshow, it was a really cool, like, historical building that used to be their airport.
Yes.
And I was just amazed by that. It was so beautiful. And I tweeted about it, and of course Josh tweeted back because, you know, I'm a celebrity, so he was following me apparently. And he commented back and said, you know, what a great place it was to visit, and you know, that I should add it to my bucket list, and so I will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Josh said
Albuquerque's
so.
Beautiful. No, I used to live there. It is a beautiful place. Very historic, very beautiful.
Yeah, I'd never been to New Mexico. I think when I took my road trip across the U.S. with my grandparents, I must have slept through New Mexico. I really don't remember. I slept a lot on that road trip. They'd wake me up for important things. They'd be like, oh, look, Jen, the Grand Canyon.
It's a long trip. It's a long trip with a lot of nothing to see until you get into the cities, which are very far apart, so I don't blame you for sleeping.
Don't let the New Mexico Tourist Board hear us.
Yeah.
We'll be banned.
But it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I get to see a lot of pictures in October because my most dearest BFF goes there every year for the Albuquerque Balloon Festival.
Yeah.
And
very cool.
Yeah, she works on the cruise, one of the crews. So, so I've seen the pictures, and no, I haven't made it down there yet.
Oh, you need to go. You need to go. There's nothing like it. You can't explain it. You have to be there.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Well, I just think we should go to every single location they do these shows at.
Oh, sure.
Sure. They should. They just should fly us out there. We could just do it. You know, do this from.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting?
You chit chat there. We can do chit chat
Yes.
there.
Certainly. How long did you live there, Sherry?
About 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a New Mexico expert.
Well, and I have a son. My son still lives there. So.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I have a brother there too. So.
Did you get the green chilies for the green chili sauce?
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah, my girlfriend buys it for the whole year, so I got to enjoy it when we went to Colorado. So,
Nice.
yeah, we digress or whatever.
That's right.
No.
We got to talk about the show.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a show.
All right, Val. So what was the first story that they covered?
The first story was, her name was Jerry, and Kenyatta did it, and she was looking into her grandfather, John Barnum. And the first document they pulled up was obituaries, and I loved how they showed all these different and a variety of documents.
Yes.
This time. And
I also like that Kenyatta said, you know, because people will say, I think I'm related to a certain person, and she explained what you have to do. You've got to find out the person, and then find out if your ancestors even lived in the same time frame or in the same place with that person before you can even start thinking about, do they have a connection. I liked how she explained that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I thought that was really good. Yeah, I thought it was really good the way that they were kind of sharing the process that they go through.
Yes. Yes.
You know, because obviously they can't take them through the however many hours behind the scenes. But I thought Kenyatta did a great job this time with, you know, dramatizing the story and explaining the process, and I don't know, I really felt like she was much more like engaged and emotional with these people this time.
I agree.
Valerie, who was Mr. Barnum supposedly supposed to be related to? Do you write that down?
Well, Jerry, the gal, had said that the family story or lore was that he was involved with the capture of Billy the Kid.
Right.
And based on the, you know, like Sherry was saying, Kenyatta explained, you know, you got to research the person and then research the famous or infamous and see if the paths crossed, and that was what, you know, was determined. It determined or confirmed from the obituary that they weren't in the same place at the same time, if I remember correct. But it confirmed that he wasn't involved in the capture of Billy the Kid. But there was a different bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was going to say. There was a different bad guy, and that's probably where the story came from.
Right. Yeah, and the bad guy's name was Napoleon.
Yeah.
I love that. It just cracked me up. I was like, really? His name is Napoleon? That can't be good.
Napoleon Cantu was his name. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and so instead of their family member going after, you know, Billy the Kid, he went after Napoleon Cantu, and apparently he was on the side of the law and Napoleon was not. And was it a shootout or something like that?
He was shot in the chest.
The exact details. I know that he shot Napoleon and he died. And so then he was taken to trial.
Yeah, because Napoleon, before he died, said, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't even have a gun.
Sure.
You lie.
Whatever.
But that was that affidavit that they found.
Yes.
And then the indictment and the trial documents. Oh my gosh, I was drooling.
Yes, that was those kinds of records are what you would find, of course, in loose court records, and that's what I work in every day.
Yes.
They're so awesome to read because it's hard to get work done. It's hard to get work done because you want to read everything.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why it was good that they showed Josh going. It was the University of New Mexico, the oral history collection, which is a manuscript collection. So, Melissa, you probably just were, you know, all over that.
Oh, well, I was like, I've seen those. Yes, I've seen those. So they're just great. If you don't ever research in loose court records, they are just the bomb.
How
Mhm.
can I ask you an
Sure.
archive research question?
Mhm.
How do you know where to look when you start looking at loose papers? I mean, are you looking at time periods, or how do you kind of narrow the field so you're not just wading through boxes of paper?
Hopefully, the repository that has them has processed them, which means that they have been organized in such a way, and hopefully there's an index, and they're not going to be on the shelf out there where you can just go by and pull them off. They're going to be probably behind a locked door or in a vault. You'll need to ask the archivist, so do you have loose court records? The minute books, we all know about minute books because they're usually microfilmed or digitized. A lot of loose records are not digitized. What you need to do, just ask the archivist, ask the staff member. You won't normally find them in most libraries unless they're an archival type library. Usually you'll find them in archives, university archives, not necessarily the court records, but county archives at the local level or state archives. But you have to ask because it's not readily seeable when you walk into a facility.
And Melissa's being much too kind or quiet because not all archivists index like she does. I saw her detailed. It's great, a genealogist in an archives, because she has an example. I had the pleasure of watching one of her webinars and that she gave, and the detail in her description of one collection is just, I mean, incomparable, just awesome.
Well, thank you,
go,
Valerie.
Melissa.
Thank you. Sometimes I wonder if it's a detriment sometimes because being a genealogist in an archives, you know, it's a lot of, like she said, a lot of archivists, they're great, but they just don't go to the extremes as a genealogist because I'm always thinking, oh, this may be the only document that is out there on this person and I need to index it to the nth degree so that the researcher can find it.
Right.
But we need to be grateful for the archivist because you can go ask and they know, pretty much know the collection inside out and backwards. And I mean, at the Minnesota Historical Society, where the state library, state archives, and the Historic Society all together in one building, they know that collection and they have guides, you know, to it. It may not be, you know, total complete detail, but you know, they can find them and just like they showed with Josh on the show.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things I loved about this particular story was at the end when the woman shared that her parents were still alive and that she looked forward to sharing the story with them, that they're 90 years old or something.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so wonderful.
I like the fact that when they found out that they had nothing to do with Billy the Kid, you know, they still dug and they found a story to share, and I just love that.
Yeah.
That was probably even more juicier. Is that juicier a word? A lot more juicy.
Well, but now this Napoleon Canto is now famous because he's been on Genealogy Roadshow.
Absolutely. And the fact that the town, I mean, because he was sent to jail for this murder, third-degree murder. He was sent to jail. But the town petitioned the governor, you know, to have it overturned, and it was, and he was released on Thanksgiving Day, which I thought that was wonderful. In 1910, he was released. In 1910.
That's wonderful.
So I thought that was great.
I bet that was one happy family.
Yeah. And that's a story that will probably be retold in their family now every Thanksgiving.
Right.
Right. Definitely.
We'll all invite ourselves down to their house for Thanksgiving.
Give us some chilies, tamales. Good.
Awesome. I'm sure they won't mind at all.
They won't.
Now, the next story, I think, was about the Navajo man who served in World War II, because I'm going through my Twitter feed.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
see it in there.
That's the one that Josh went into for
the oral history.
The oral, right. And to listen to those. That's the one he did that. And that was so interesting that she didn't know anything about her father because of the divorce, but had heard that she had the, code talker in her family history. So I thought that was wonderful, and that her mom was supporting her on that as well. Yeah, it was just, and I've never worked on any Native American records before, so to see the census where they had the numbers, because the names would change so much, so they could track them, was very interesting to me because I'd not seen that before.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that either. I haven't done any Native American research, but that was such a great insight into the census and how they kept track of everyone, because
Right.
Jewish people are very similar in the fact that they change their names all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I wish that they would do something like that. No such luck.
Yeah.
But, oh, wow.
And also it was interesting that, he would find the name and the name was the same. Instead of letting everybody jump to conclusions, it was like, okay, we have this name, now we've got to prove that this name is the right person.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who find those names and jump to conclusions and say, okay, the name's the same, this has got to be my guy. So I thought that was a very good point of same name, but now we've got to make sure it's the same person.
Right.
And
how important those details are.
Yeah.
And the assigned ID number.
Yeah.
And that was the case. That was the verification on a case that I worked with. They wanted to connect so badly with this lawsuit, Native American, and I won't divulge anything more, but it had to do with a lawsuit, but they had to prove direct descendant, and of course, for that, it was the Dawes rolls, and I said, I'm sorry, they're not on there, and it clearly says in the lawsuit that they have to be listed on the Dawes rolls, and I'll have to go back and look for that assigned ID number. I can't remember now. That was some time ago, so.
Yeah.
But the point I liked was people may not find anything on their direct line, but the brothers and sisters are still part of that family, and it was, Chester, the brother, that had everything, and it's like, you work the whole family unit, and I looked at the person's face and oh, not mine, but well, that's your person's brother. You're still family.
Yeah. And then they started showing the pictures and showed her baby picture.
Yeah, that was so cute.
And immediately I thought, oh, they found somebody.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
How else would they have had the baby picture? And then for her aunt to be there. And I loved how her aunt came up to her and said that you're mine now. And I was like,
oh man, goosebumps, tears.
Tears.
Yeah, that story definitely brought out the tears.
Well, I like the fact that at the very, very end, when they're showing them walking away, the aunt was embracing her mother.
Yes,
you think about a divorce and problems there, and so I was really glad to see that too.
That's good. Yeah. Well, I thought all the bit about the code talkers was really interesting, and what a vital part of World War II that was, and that the whole family didn't know for sure what he had done.
Yeah.
That it was like, he still couldn't tell anyone after all those years.
That was interesting when because the Japanese kept breaking the code, and look at here, it was touching that, it was Native American, Navajo that they went to because of the code talker, and it's like, what an honor. Yeah. And then, like I said, to have a picture of him and then with him getting the congressional award. Whoa.
Yes. And I thought, how sad that she didn't know that. Couldn't have been there. That would have been wonderful.
Definitely. Okay, so anything else about that story anyone wants to add?
not specifically about that story, but I liked how they had in between the different stories.
Mm-hmm.
They had each of them speaking to different people about what they were looking for and giving them some clues and some hints as to how they can. And I thought that was really good because people watching can think about, oh, if I want to find mine, that's a good clue to help me with mine as well. So I liked that, those little snippets.
Yeah.
The education, which was a big factor,
Yes.
for this season.
Right.
Yes.
And I wonder if that's, earlier Val was telling us she had heard that Josh was involved with some of the development of the show. And I can't help but think that was his influence.
I would think so.
Well, it was the ambush cam with Dear Myrtle at the NGS conference that she interviewed him, and this year he was asked to be on the production team, not to pick the particular stories, but to have input, and his was the education part, even if it's a snippet here, snippet there, so that that everyday people would see this and tell them how to go about that or what to go for and to explain that part. So, and Josh, being, having started since, a long time ago when he was 16, 15, 16, that's the teacher, coming out and the educator and which I really like because I love teaching. So, but and I think that's why too the at the bottom of the screen where it says for more information or on evidence and so forth. And
I missed that. I'll have to go back and watch again.
Yeah, and so but Josh had said that he couldn't divulge very much, but he could share that. So I'm not, letting out any secrets. It's out there on YouTube. But I was all excited. It's like, ooh, that's cool. That I didn't know that he was part of the production crew. So.
Yeah, that's great.
And this is the first year, apparently, if I remember that, he was doing that. So.
Right.
I would just like to say one thing about oral histories as an archivist. It's another collection you'll have to ask for.
Oh, I
because
bet.
they're not. In my archives, we have two sets of oral histories. One is of locals who were older and they were interviewed about the history of our area and how they lived it and what happened. And then we did a project on World War II veterans.
Okay.
We did an oral history, and these are all on CDs, and they've all been transcribed.
Oh, wow.
So cool.
So cool. Ask at the local level at the archives about oral histories.
Yeah, last time I was up in South Bend visiting my relatives, my mom had mentioned to me that my grandmother was involved in a project where they interviewed Holocaust survivors. And so when I was at my cousin's, I asked her if she knew anything about it, and she's like, oh, yeah, I've got this box set right over here. She had a copy of it. So I popped it in my computer and burned a copy for myself. And I haven't had the time to watch more than one or two of them, but it's really amazing, and I'm so glad that that they've recorded these and made them available for people because I know in another generation there won't be any Holocaust survivors to have told their tales. And so it's important to get those stories out there so that it never happens again.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these stories are lost because if they're not put on film or they're not put on audio, they go with the person when they go, and so it's important.
Definitely. All right, what's our next story, Val?
It was Janet, and Mary Tedesco was with her.
Oh, the
and it was about the
Project.
the Trinity test.
Yeah.
With the atomic bomb.
Yes.
This is when my husband sat up in his chair. He was watching it with me, and he kind of half watches it, but he has researched a lot of the Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb and thing, and so when he heard Trinity, he said, "Oh, yeah, okay," and he's watching.
Well, I was interested in it too. Oh, I'm sorry, because my step-grandfather would never tell us what he did in World War II. But when we moved to Albuquerque when I was a teenager, he mentioned something about being there during that time, but then he would never say anything else about it. And I haven't sent out for his papers, his military papers. I'm going to now because I'm watching that and start thinking, I've got to find out if he really was there and what his involvement was now that he's passed on.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to do that.
That has to go to the top of the list, Sherry.
Yes, it does. It does. I even called my mom right after and said, Mom, am I remembering this correctly? And she goes, he did mention that, but I don't know because he would never talk about it.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
There was so much secrecy around those projects that it's no wonder that people still wouldn't talk about them later, even if they could.
Even if the papers were not classified anymore, they still wouldn't do it. Yeah.
Well, and you've got to think if you were involved in that project, yes, it ended World War II by having those bombs, but it was such a devastating way to do it.
Yes.
You've got to think there's a little bit of, I don't know, distaste or bad feeling about, that
you don't want to talk about being involved. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I loved how she came to want to ask her question. What brought her to that, and that was the postcard.
Yes.
I thought that was great that she took that clue from the postcard.
Yeah.
It takes so little to make us go on out on those tangents, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's that, ooh, shiny.
Yes.
And then to what
she was right. He had to have been there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But just think, having that postcard, that little itty bitty tidbit, and asking that question, and then look what it led to. Oh my gosh, that her grandfather testified at the congressional hearing, and the transcripts, that were, I guess, declassified now, and the original. I don't know if you picked up it, that it had the color on it, because if you just write to the archives or National Archives or wherever and ask for a copy, you don't see that color on there.
Right.
Oh,
and that's one reason why they're digitizing the War of 1812 in color.
Oh, right.
But and then to the patent, and oh my God.
Yeah, that patent was cool.
Yeah,
that was very cool.
But they kept thinking, now this doesn't mean he was there, but.
Yeah, I like how Mary said that, but, you got to be very careful what you say, but it's like, tell her, Mary, go for it.
Yeah. That was cool.
A good guess that he was.
Definitely. He was definitely involved at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I found it interesting that he was testing clothing and the effects of radiation. I was like,
especially when so many were just
that. Wow.
Yeah.
I wondered if they just didn't know.
I bet part of it is that they were trying to find probably materials that were reflective of the radiation, that would protect the people.
Right. Maybe so.
I don't know if anyone else is of the age, but it had direct interest to me because I remember when I was in elementary school and they'd have these, TV videos on, the atomic bomb and where we would have to go for, safety. And then the clothing part that he tested clothing is like, oh, good, because what he did may have protected us in the 50s, 60s, time frame. And how, you had to cover yourself in the radiation. I was scared to death when I was little. It's like, oh my God, I'm just going to live in the basement in a shield. But to put more of an adult aspect to it now, from when you're growing up. And that jogs your memory to write that story. So.
Yeah, you should write that down.
You should.
I wrote just like 2 or 3 sentences so that it would be enough so that when I get back home, because I'm at my son's house, so when I get back home, then I can fill in the flesh and stuff.
Good. Yeah, my mom talks about, ducking under the desk at school. Like they'd have these exercises they do, and I'm like, wow.
Well, I guess I'm only one of age than your mom's age. Because that's exactly what,
Yeah. Well, but you're not the only generation that was afraid of
That's true.
the atomic
Yeah.
bomb, because even as a kid,
true.
I remember when Reagan was president, and of course I was little. I didn't understand what their bombing was, because they were bombing, gosh, who was it? I want to say, like, I don't know. I'm really bad with more recent history. But I remember as a kid watching Reagan having these people, bomb this place, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's the end of the world. They're going to have nuclear bombs, and I was terrified. And at the time, I lived not too far from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base here in Dayton, Ohio. And so I thought, well, if they're going to bomb Ohio, that'd be the place to go. So I figured I was just, I was a lost cause. So I was always terrified.
See, you got to write that story.
Yes.
But but Jen, it's an experience.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Of the time that nobody will remember or lived. You lived it, and so you need to write that experience.
Absolutely.
I think it was more frightening for me because my step-grandfather worked at the Air Force Museum up there. And so it kind of, of course, I'd been to the Air Force Museum multiple times. I'd seen the Enola Gay, which is the plane that had dropped the bomb. And so, it's more real to me because I had been there. And so then, my child mind connected that it was going to happen someday.
Yes.
God willing, it never does, but...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's like with the atomic bomb and the bomb shelters.
Yeah.
And growing up, where they are. And now every time I see that symbol still on buildings, and even if it's just like tornado shelter, that brings back the childhood memory. It's like the smells, I guess, and I need to write that up too. What smells does that,
Yeah. Well, hey, let's move on to a happier story.
Yeah.
I know. Ancestor that was in a comic book. I want an ancestor that was in a comic book.
Yes. The Stout family.
That was so cool. And I got a message from somebody that I know here in South Carolina that said, I'm connected to that family. So that was exciting for her to see that and see that she was connected and that her ancestors in a comic book. So how fun is that? So,
what was really cool, did you see how Josh and the guy's name was Kenneth, how they just, like they were into it, so engaged, and and the guy wasn't just saying, oh, I'm so excited. He was really all over it, and then and I could just feel Josh's excitement about, well, in the comic book, and did you ever hear about Ripley's? And he's like, but not only all the documents and stuff, but just the connection there, and the
that was a great story. Who doesn't want to have that kind of heroine, in a family tree? And I can't believe they left her when she was shipwrecked, and then her husband got sick and couldn't move, and so they left her. Some friends she
know. That's awful. Yeah, Josh was cracking me up with how excited he was. Like,
he was.
I'm sure, like, the director's going, slow down.
Because the speed of his voice, the speed of him talking went faster.
Yes, I thought it was funny. I was like, okay, obviously he really likes this family and really enjoys researching them.
Yeah.
Well, don't you imagine?
He said he'd researched them before.
I was just fixing to say that, Sherry. Don't you imagine by the time he got on camera and with them that he had already done all this research and gotten so excited and what he's found that his butt's going to bust before he can get it out.
Well, I think he even said, oh, I'm so excited. I think he said that he was excited that, to have found someone related to the Stout family that he had done prior research on.
Right.
And that it, now some of the work that he had done, had even more meaning.
Right.
I wonder if
And
it's because he did the research that he pulled this person in and say, hey, you got to come to Albuquerque.
It could be. It could be. And I just think it's fun that they've got Facebook pages and societies and all that kind of stuff of her descendants. I thought that was so much fun.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I've never even heard of this person.
Me either.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't know if the guy quite knew what to make of it.
Oh, that's true. But we're going to get excited if we see us swimming back. We're going to hope.
You
Yeah.
ready for the next one?
You bet.
Yes.
That was, well, in between that, they did little tidbits helping, and they really, very specific, go here,
Right,
so that was, again,
yes.
now that I heard today, that Josh, bringing in the education part and telling people that watch the show what they can do. So, but anyway, the next person was Mark, and Mary Tedesco did that, and it was his ancestor predated the New Mexico's history on his father's side.
Yeah.
And how they started with, yay, church records.
Yeah, and I love how just going through those records, they were able to take it so far back that, generations that she hadn't even known their names. I just love that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. This was the guy Mark, right? And then he found out that his that he had an ancestor that was the governor of Santa Fe at one time.
The mayor of Santa Fe.
Yeah.
The mayor of Santa Fe. Yeah, I thought was incredible. And then who knew that Spanish gave money, part of the Daughters of the American Revolution had.
Right.
They were part of that group and had records on him because he helped out in the war effort.
Yeah, they had the document for that. It's like.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yes, they recognize him as a patriot. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I was sitting there going. I was sitting there going, okay, all the SAR and DAR people are going nuts right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So this man has this wonderful, the Mexican through, and then he's got American history because he's, his ancestor. So it's really cool to have that in one family line.
Yeah, that was awesome. And,
Valerie,
and
do you have?
Go ahead.
I'll ask Valerie in her notes. For some reason, I remember that who did this one, Mark? I mean, who was the host?
Mary Tedesco.
Okay.
It was Mary.
When she was talking about the DAR, for some reason I remember her making the comment that to get into the DAR you have to have a direct descendant. I thought she made that statement because then I thought, wait a minute, no, you can get through a great-great-uncle or, I thought she made that statement. I could be wrong. I may be remembering wrong. But
well, they say you have to be directly descendant from a Revolutionary War ancestor.
Because I'm thinking the straight descendant is I'm thinking she thought a straight descendant, but I know you can kind of go, descendant, but like uncle,
over here, but in some way, and to prove
it must be blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, I don't know about you, but I get really excited. I know we all get excited about these shows and each segment and each little tiny tidbit. And that's why I wrote trace back to 1693 exclamation point in my notes.
Yeah.
When I looked at these 10 years from now. Yeah, but it's like, on the other hand, it's like, oh, I want that. Oh man, that's not fair. I start my whiny voice. Come on, admit, ladies, you have a little bit of that.
I have one family.
In some of my lines, yes.
The 1600s.
Yeah. good records. It's like, why didn't my people leave such good records? I didn't have any mayors. I didn't have any of
Yeah. But I loved the guy. He just seemed so excited about everything. He was just like, wow, and it was
like,
just really cool.
What? Wow.
Yeah, he was just like, I don't know how to react.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was waiting for him to say, "No, get out of here." Oh.
Yeah, that was awesome. I just love seeing people's reactions to this.
Me too. Me too.
And I hope that it makes people think, that it's not unreachable. Yeah, we don't have thousands of hours to spend on our genealogy, but you do little bits here and there, and you can find out some interesting stories about your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope at the very least it makes people start asking their parents and grandparents questions.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and Josh did mention that when he was talking about when he was with in the archives, and he found archive. You need to get out there and talk to people. You need to record your parents, your grandparents, any of those older generations. So he did make that point that we need to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah, he was really pushing that point really well, and did it in such a way, because look at how young he is, and when he first started, and so that's why it's important to do that. And especially like now, my mother-in-law, we just lost her recently, but Dad, he can't remember 5 minutes ago, but he remembers 10, 20, 30, and he loves to drive around. So it's like, okay, come on, Dad, and I'm sitting there, writing down, taking notes.
Yeah.
When I go driving around with my great uncle, I actually turn the audio recorder on my phone on, and then when he's talking, I can. I don't have to take notes.
Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, I need to do either that or a digital voice recorder or something. But yeah, and so because he just goes off, and then I could sit there for hours just drilling him, but
oh sure,
but it's just little.
You don't want to wear him out though.
No, exactly. So, but the next one was Adria with Kenyatta. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just saying that there's something about having their voice to listen to, like Josh was saying, the intonations of their voice and how they're telling the story versus just having written down. Although I prefer written down than nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
But if we can record them, and it's wonderful to listen to voices too after they passed, and that brings back memories and voices recorded and the stories recorded. Sorry. Lead us into the last one.
Well, now you make me wonder. Oh my gosh! Now you make me wonder. Gosh, did I record mom-in-law? Oh, we won't go there. Okay. The next story was Adria with Kenyatta, and she had heard in the family lore about something about Pancho Villa. Right.
Pancho Villa. Yeah.
And Kenyatta did. I was just going, yes. She said, you need to do 2 things when trying to connect to famous. And she listed them. And here's another teaching tool. Learn more about that person and see if your family was in the same place at the same time. Right. She was reiterating what was said at the beginning, the connecting the dot. So anyway. So yeah. I'm sorry. I could just go. It's like.
Definitely.
Well, she said that she felt like she was lost. She said she felt like she was lost, and so she wanted to know more about her family connections. And that's what spurred her to so that her family and Pancho Villa were in the same, although they could not prove any family ties. But they were in the same place at the same time by following the births of the 10 children. And so that led them to say, okay, they were here from this time to this time because they had these 10 children and these were born and this Panchovia was. So,
Right.
you know,
Did you catch if the
somebody
baptism
probably
record
knew
was
him
from?
or something.
What's that?
Did any of you catch, and maybe Melissa, because archives right there forefront, the from the 1880s, the baptismal record was that? Did you catch it? Because I didn't write it down. If that was at the church or at the archives.
I believe it was at the
write it down.
church, was it not? I believe it was a church record, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then the marriage record giving the parents' names, because I was always saying, it could. Yeah, there's just a chance it might not, but in this case it did, and it gave the names of the third grades. So I'm going, yes. And then the fourth grades on both sides on the chart,
And the fourth grade.
And Kenyatta was getting so excited. She goes, and look at here.
And she was saying, if this is those 4 generations on each side, we want to go back even farther if we can, but all of us want to be able to go, look at I've gone back for all these generations on each side. So
Yeah.
she was very able to do that for her. And then telling her, now you can take this and you can do more.
Right.
And that's why I don't just have the
these lines,
the direct line. I have a chart that goes all the way around the size of a building, like we call the shop on the family farm the size of a small Motel 6, and I put, it's all the descendants of the immigrant, all the way around the building, a long sheet, and so.
Wow.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that this year, and it's like, no, I am, because the younger, I was really touched by the amount of the younger people that went up to it. I saw my name, and so now I'm going to think of something different that they have to go and do. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But to show
Maybe
that
you can
chart.
make a scavenger hunt, and then you have to find.
There you go. Good idea. Good idea.
Okay, we lost Valerie.
Yeah, I'm out there. Could you tell I'm just out there thinking all these ideas? Well, I wanted to say too, the research team, the team of researchers for this episode was just like, oh my gosh, just embrace them and hug them and thank you and just the whole way the show was done.
They did a great job.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it.
It was great.
I did too.
Is there anything else anybody wants to say? I think we're getting close to the end of our time.
Oh man!
I think we did good. I think we covered
I'm sure we could chit chat about darn near anything.
Oh yes.
Well,
yes, we could.
And don't
another couple hours.
forget, this weekend is the new Roots.
Yes.
Out.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten.
What was that? What was the new Roots?
Roots. The series that was back in the 70s? They've redone it.
They've redone it.
It's going to be on PBS this weekend, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I got to go set my DVR.
Thanks for the reminder. It was this weekend.
What's that? So, let me
just a thank you reminder because I had forgotten. So.
Yes. Sorry, my internet seems to be cutting out. So I'm going to wrap things up here before it boots me out. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. I definitely had a lot of food for thought there about interviewing my family and writing my own memories down, and I appreciate that. And hopefully our audience will also remember to do that. With that, I guess we'll do next week. We will talk about Genealogy Roadshow again, and hopefully we can all make it and we won't have technical issues. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment.
Yes, we love the internet. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. And remember, we would love to hear from all of our audience. Please drop us a line in the comments below, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or send us an email at editor@theinDepthGenealogist.com. On that note, have a great day, and remember to go in depth with all of your ancestors. Bye.
Bye.